crap about the shroud.
Okay.
They're both amateur syndenologists. They love the shroud. They wrote this paper because their research showed that the 15th century fire damaged parts of the shroud. So in the damaged parts of the shroud, the Poor Sisters of Clare produced end-to-end splicing. The shroud is linen, the end-to-end splices are cotton. So under a microscope, you can see the difference, but from the naked eye, you can't. End-to-end splicing on each thread. I mean, these nuns are freaks. I mean, they're unbelievable.
Okay.
So this couple figured, they wrote this paper, and they surmised that the carbon-14 dating, the sample, must have come from one of the places where the Poor Sisters of Clare repaired. So they published a paper. They don't have access to any of the material, but one of the original guys from the Shroud of Turin Research Project, down in his lab at home, has a piece of the linen from that place where they took the sample. So he goes, well, I can disprove this in 5 minutes. So he takes the sample, looks at it under the microscope. Sure enough, end-to-end splicing.
No kidding.
And this is what skewed the carbon-14 dating.
Got it.
What skewed the carbon-14 dating.
It messed up the dating.
Messed up the dating. And then Pope John Paul allows this woman who is a textile expert to come in and examine the shroud. She vacuums the shroud.
No way.
Wait, this is deliberate. Joseph, this is deliberate.
So she was sent there to destroy evidence.
And that's what she did. Because we know that pollen in the shroud, right? We know that the pollen in the shroud, certain plants only come from in and around Jerusalem. That's it. They're not found anywhere else. So if this is a big forgery, so let me get this straight. Somebody gets a shroud, takes it to Jerusalem and sprinkles some pollen on it. The shroud, originally when they did the pollen, shows where it went. It goes from Jerusalem originally up into Turkey, then over to France, and then now in modernity in Turin. I mean, the pollen isn't lying, because they would take the shroud out and show it to everybody.
Wow.
And the shroud bears a very faint image of a crucified man. So Secunda Pia, years ago, is hired by the Vatican to take photographs of the shroud. So he goes in, he's got those old box cameras with the cloth over the head and the glass plates, right?
Yes.
Slams the glass plate in there, and he's taking these photographs of the shroud. He goes into his dark room, and he's got the glass plate. So he's in his dark room, and he's got the solution over the glass plate, and he's holding the glass plate, looking at it like this. He's looking at the glass plate. He's the first guy ever to photograph it, and this is what he sees.
No kidding. So he put this into the mechanism, and he saw this image, which is from the Shroud of Turin.
And that's a positive image. It's not a negative image.
How about that? A positive
In other words, what's on the shroud is a negative image. And when he took the photograph, this isn't an iPhone, folks. This is glass plates. So what he has in the glass plates is a negative, and then he develops the positive from the negative. But that's not what he found. The glass plate showed this, showed the face of the shroud.
Can you see this? Do you see this? This is, as far as we know, and now I'm convinced personally, this is the face of Jesus right here.
That's
the face of Jesus after being crucified in the shroud.
And he's in repose. I mean, he is not alive there. He's dead. And you can see that certain parts of the beard have been plucked out and all this other stuff. Secunda Pia almost dropped the glass plate.
I can only imagine.
Yeah,
not having any context and then seeing that.
And then that was it. Once it was photographed, then it's off to the races. And now that cloth is the most studied artifact on the planet.
That was very important, having L.A. explain what he knew about the Shroud of Turin. And it was a prophetic unction for me to ask him the question. That's not why I brought him on the interview. When I brought him on, I wanted to talk about all kinds of wild stuff. But that one jumped up in my spirit. I said, what about the Shroud of Turin, L.A.? And he had all this information. Now, here's the interesting piece. Just in the last few days, the Sun puts out an article because they found something out about this. And let me just say to you, the latest scientific revelation reveals that the Shroud of Turin was first made. This is the discovery, that it was made. Let me show you here. Let's go to the TV screen or the screen here. The Shroud of Turin was made, they've discovered in this article, 2,000 years ago. Now, why am I saying this? They're saying that when they looked at it again, they've now come to an idea, or they've looked into the information, and they've discovered this burial cloth is from 2,000 years ago. Now, they've never had that type of statement before regarding it, and it's leading people to believe, because it was coinciding the time when Jesus was said to be alive and ultimately crucified, suggesting that the burial cloth bearing the imprint of Jesus is what